You're listening to Girls, Ghosts, and Ghouls, a showcase of specters, spirits, and spooks, as well as the women who love them. Only on ZTO TV podcasts.
Timely, topical, and terrifying.
I am betrothed of the devil, and I have seen the terrors. I have survived my own sacrifice, and I'm stronger in the devil's favor than you are.
All right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to our first episode of Girls, Ghosts, Ghouls. I'm Jenny Morrow. There's Betsy White and Rebecca Cunningham.
Hello.
And today we're going to talk about the 1964 Roger Corman version of The Masque of the Red Death. And I will say, much like Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula was actually Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, this is Roger Corman's Masque of the Red Death. Definitely. It only vaguely follows the book or the story, I should say. It's not a book. It's like a 5-page story, if that Poe wrote. So he really kind of Corman had to make it his own on that case. So basically there's a plague.
Kind of like today.
But this is kind of, visually nastier. I mean, we can't really compare symptoms.
Yes, definitely.
But visually, these people, apparently it takes 30 minutes to run its course. You catch it. Your pores open up and seep blood out, and you have seizures and spasms, and you scream in pain and then die. So at least it's a short kind of death.
Yeah, you're gone before you realize hell.
And in Corman's version, basically you have Prince Prospero, who is a character from the story, who is visiting the village of serfs and peasants on his annual rounds to thank them for their service, basically. Thanks for working the land and giving me all the food.
By running them over with his carriage and trampling children.
Let me add, that's the little classic, okay, we're going to show how evil this person is. Ooh, they're running over a kid with that carriage.
Yep. There's a baby in the road. Smash the baby. No, but right before he does that, though, there's an old woman who runs into the gentleman behind me, who it's my cosplay of, by the way, who tells her to go talk to the villagers and let them know that their freedom is at hand. I'm not using quite the right word, but basically they're going to be released, which you should think about what release means when you really. And of course, the old woman goes back to the village, and then Prince Prospero shows up and nearly runs over a baby. He's saved by one of the heroes of the tale, which I use the term hero loosely.
I don't think there's any really heroes.
If there's a hero, it's actually the Red Death.
Yes, I'm going to agree on that one.
That is absolutely true. The hero in the story is the plague.
Yeah, so I mean, it's safe to say that there's certainly some similarities from the milieu of that movie to today's events. You have, the disease rampant, the poor having no option really to escape it.
Yeah.
Even down to there's a condition actually with COVID called red face, idiopathic erythrosis, basically, like a net-like rash signaling the presence of blood clots. So there you go.
Which is a good point, because really COVID is kind of like a blood disease, and that's where a lot of the problems are coming from.
A lot of
clots and gathering, so that's the breathing and the energy and this. Makes a terrible comparison. I mean, not like it makes a good comparison, but it's terrible in the reality of it.
There you go.
But so Prospero shows up, says, hey, thanks, and you can come to a feast, and we'll feed you. And at this point in time, Gino, our close to a hero but not quite, pops up and is basically heckling Prince Prospero the moment he steps out, and is like, oh, so we get the scraps from your table, like, fuck you. Which
pretty much,
and the expected result happens. He's like, we're going to be freed from you, we had a prophecy, we know it's true. Which I'm like, maybe get details, I don't know.
I think it's a little vague on what that freedom entails.
What I love, though, is what they say. What the thing actually says is, like, the death actually says is your days of subjugation are coming to an end.
Right.
He doesn't say from Prince Prospero.
No.
At any point.
No,
and I think he does use the term like release, like the release from your subjugation, which, to me right away, my brain's like, well, there's a lot of ways to get released, and not all of them are good.
You're all
Some of
gonna
them come
die.
Yeah. But so he tells Prospero, of course, is like, and of course, not only does Gino step up with this other older gentleman, and since he does, and he says, we're going to be free and all that, Prospero's like, yep, free, be on your knees, joyful, right? Right, garrote them. So they're like slowly strangling them, like the worst garroting ever that you've seen.
True.
When, of course, again, using the term very loosely, heroine of the story shows up. Francesca, I believe.
Yeah,
Her name is
Francesca. She
Francesca.
is the young innocent, played by Jane
Ingenue.
Asher, who is still with us actually.
Yeah.
And she had said of the film that she actually really enjoyed the shooting. That Vincent Price was the perfect gentleman during it, like a father figure, and Roger Corman actually was a really good director on it. He was polite and professional and very mentoring, for lack of a better term.
Well, great.
I mean, good for her that she felt that way, and it was a good experience for her.
Yeah, she was only 17
60s?
at the time of filming. Yes.
Yeah, she looked very young. It was the 60s, so it's good that was her experience, where I'm expecting a lot of other actresses had a completely different one in several other movies. But yeah, and I had heard that both about Corman and Price, because I'm a huge Vincent, well, I think all of us are huge Vincent Price fans, but that he was always very, gentlemanly and never creepy or weird or any of that. So
professional.
Yes.
Very professional, very good actor, very nice person to deal with.
Yeah.
So Francesca throws herself, on her knees and grabs the bottom of Prince Prospero's, outfit, and is like, mercy, because that's how women save people. And and of course she's beautiful and innocent. So Prospero doesn't intend to give mercy, but he's like, well, now my interest is caught. And his way of mercy is like, we'll just balance it a little. Pick one to die and the other will live. That's all you're gonna do. Of course, one's her father and the other is like her love. So, while she's sitting there basking in indecision, as you would be, because that's not really a choice. And if she doesn't choose, of course, both die. There's not a third option there. There's a screaming in the background. And Prospero's like, deal with that. And of course, it's not dealt with. So he's like, do I have to?
He goes off again. Yeah. The answer is yes, he does.
Yes, of course. And he does, because he walks into a hut and there's this soldier like terrified in the corner. And he's like, what? He's like, look at that. Look at that. And it's the old woman who had brought the tale of their release to the village after talking to the gentleman behind me. And she's dying of the Red Death.
Go figure. Who could have seen that one coming?
Don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
Name definitely wasn't the clue. Like, you gotta love a movie that's title just comes relevant within like seconds.
Yeah.
He's like, the Red Death. So Prospero's not a fan. He's freaked out. He comes out. He's like, all right, grab the two guys, grab the girl, burn the village.
Like you do.
Just fuck it, burn the village. So they have no place to stay or hide or whatever, and goes back to his fortified castle. And where, of course, there already is an entourage, and he's invited, several of the peers of the realm to a big party. And when they get to there, he's like, yeah, hey, tell everybody that the Red Death is happening in that village, so don't go through that. If they do, they're not to come here. Because that's what he
at least believes.
Of course, if there is no village left since he burned it, how would they know where the village is?
It's the smoldering remnants as they pass by.
And then hilarity ensues, shall we say?
Yeah, and then the real game begins.
Then it's revealed that, of course, Prospero and all his cronies are Satanists. Because it's the 60s and it's Satan everywhere. It's Satan and evil witches, and that's just it.
Yeah, it was a very easy, way to add a little bit more of a villain, per se, to throw it in.
Yeah.
And frankly, considering the length of the short story, Corman definitely had to add elements in to pad it out to be movie length.
You're not wrong.
And he did, but I didn't feel the Satanist part was needed. And actually his 89 version, they took the Satanism out
Mhm.
And of course, there was no Vincent Price in it, so it was not as good of a version, but I would say it played better without Satanism. But, it's the 60s
Although
here.
one thing that I was thinking about with this though is that at least with this like Satanist, it's not just that he's like a weird hedonistic prince.
No, he's a devout Satanist.
Right. In the 80s version, he was like, well, my dad was kind of mean and I was raised better, but now I'm kind of becoming a dick because I was raised by my dad. And you're like, but you weren't. You were raised by a tutor who was a nice guy. And now you're just being a dick because you are.
Yeah.
Well, this one,
his claim was genetics.
yeah.
Just genetics.
Well, this one definitely, I mean, Vincent Price, he played the lovely role of the cultured, intelligent, evil individual. I think they tried to give it a little bit more depth to the main character that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it,
awful evil.
It's awful evil Satanist,
Yeah.
Kind of like vaping kids, just it's a thing. But and of course part of his allure or part of his attraction towards Francesca is she is a devout Christian. So he feels matched by her faith.
Mm-hmm, yeah. She is an innocent and therefore in a way a challenge.
Well, not just the innocent, it's also because it's matched by the faith. It wasn't just that she was innocent and pure, it's also that she devoutly believed in God. And
she had a heavy belief, and he was like, I want to kind of break you and bring you to Satan.
And I'm sorry, it's apparently ice cream truck time at my house.
I was wondering
it's
what
the plague song,
cheery music to die by.
Just imagine spinning around waltzing while you're all dying of the Red Death to that. There you go.
Yeah. The dance scene at the end.
It makes sense to me. I always thought, the creepiest dancing dying would happen to like the sound of a music box because that's creepy.
It's true. Yeah. So we slowly, well, not slowly, it's revealed that he's a Satanist. It's revealed that he has a partner, which I'm never really sure if Juliana is supposed to be his wife or just his concubine. It's never really.
They don't really clarify it. And anything that I looked for,
and she doesn't exist in the book, so you can't really reference back to that for it. It's not there.
Indeterminate Mistress, I think, really is the only title we can say.
We'll just go with Mistress.
Because there's no mention of wife or whatnot, but
Indeterminate Mistress and wife of Satan.
Yes, that comes to play later.
Betrothed of Satan.
Yeah.
But and of course, as soon as Francesca's brought into Juliana's room and thrown into a bathtub, and Prospero tells Juliana, "Hey, teach her the ways of ladylikeness and put her in your finest clothes." Shockingly, Juliana is threatened.
Imagine.
I don't know why. I mean,
my boyfriend just came home with a random girl and shoved her in my bathtub,
and then told me to put my finest clothes on her.
Yeah, okay. Well, and certainly for someone of Juliana's station, giving something of hers to be worn even temporarily by a peasant, big insult, big bad insult, because it was the whole, during that this period of social stratification, one didn't move in between.
I thought it was weird that wasn't played up at all. Like he just was like, "Here's the lady Francesca," and nobody was like, "You mean the peasant that you pulled out the village 3 minutes ago?"
Yeah,
right.
Nobody, even the people that were there and knew that, did not call that out. And I was like, "That's kind of a fail there."
Like somebody would have been like, but no, they were all like, "Yay, Lady Francesca!
Oh, she's lovely. We love her." Yeah, whatever.
So yeah, of course, Francesca and Juliana come down, and Francesca's of course gorgeous when she's cleaned up, and not that she wasn't gorgeous before, but she looks less ratty and dirty. So, of course,
they wash her face. It's the equivalent of
taking your glasses off.
All that taking the glasses off, yeah.
And we have the moment comes where another short story of Poe's is inserted, and that's the Hop Frog story. But of course, in this version, he's Hop Toad. And instead of Chipetta, we have Esmeralda. And here, to me, is like the creepiest shit in this movie. Corman decides he can't find a little person, female, that is a good enough dancer to do some shit that if I had a week's practice, I could even do ballet ways.
Yeah.
So instead, he casts a child.
A literal child.
Yes, it is just, and of course,
that one dude ogles her with the ugliest of oglements.
I was gonna bring that up. The other compatriot of Prospero, Alfredo. I mean, you couldn't have chosen a different name for the guy, but anyway,
it's very Italian. Alfredo Gino.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he's definitely very just the flat villain he's put there to be menacing. Because there's nothing behind him. Yeah, yes, most of my notes regarding him. Oh, look, Alfredo's there with his pedo stare.
That's I kept writing perv.
Yeah. Yes.
But so you have this small child dancing around who's supposed to be a little person, but is obviously a small child, and it even looks like they like put fake boobs in her dress. It's just creeptastic, and it gets worse even later when they dub over an adult woman's voice on her. It's just like bad. But of course, Esmeralda in this, Geppetta / Esmeralda in this version, instead of being hit by the king, she kicks over a goblet in her dance of Alfredo, who was ogling her disgustingly, and then till his goblet gets kicked over, then he slaps her across the face, basically throwing her across the floor, and thus inciting Hop Toad in this version to want revenge, which is later enacted out in the masquerade ball, in the mask, but but they disappear after the scene for quite a while.
Yeah, they basically only come into play later again for the masquerade part.
So you get the setup and then they're gone for a while.
Which, I mean, good. I didn't want to see anybody else ogle a small child.
No, I really didn't either. And that actually made me have questions about Corman on several of it. Like, I kind of figured he was a bit maybe of a bigot from other things as well, but I'd like wonder if he just decided that a female little person was just not to his taste,
Right. Wasn't pretty enough, wasn't attractive.
Well, there's just something that we don't know and don't have anything.
No, I have nothing on that. It seems like a bad choice. And I think the only thing I saw written about it was that the end result was it enhanced the pedophilianess of Alfredo. Because, obviously it was a little girl, but I'm like, but did you need that?
Right. It was already creepy enough how he was looking at Francesca. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Because again, she is like a 17-year-old girl.
And freaking Prospero calls it out. It's called out in the movie. He's like, yes, we know you like the innocent, like it's not like you needed the extraness of this.
Well, he was a flat evil character who had no
purpose in the story,
just being evil. Yeah.
I mean, other than because they were entering the Hop Toad part of it, like he had nothing to do with the Masque of the Red Death whatsoever.
Yeah.
It was only for the Hop Toad story that he was necessary at all.
Yeah. I mean, other than to illustrate that apparently everybody there was supposed to be disgustingly,
possible,
hedonistically stupid or whatever. I don't know. But yeah. So, I mean, it continues on and you just see that where Prospero is kind of giving these lessons and trying to corrupt Francesca. And like through the whole time, like Francesca's like, okay, yeah, no. Like that just seems cruel. I don't understand why you're doing that, and he'd keep going. That was like the glory of Satan and that God is dead and Satan killed him kind of thing. And so really if you look around the world's filled with shitty people. Look around, I guess, and she's like, but it's full of hope and love too. And he's like, no, it's not. Shitty people. That's kind of proof to you. There's famine, there's plague. There's no good benevolent God. There's just evil Satan because look at the world. Which, I can't fault the logic in that.
It's a classic logic that, I mean,
but it's not really the best logic.
It's always the conversation that people have.
Yeah.
They're always, well, yes, but how can it be if this happens and what have you? And,
yeah. I mean, you hear that argument. If there's a God, then why is there
why
is there starvation?
Why
are there anti-maskers?
Yeah.
Why was there Trump? I mean,
free will and people are dumb.
Right.
There you go.
I mean,
there's my answer. I solved it.
No, I mean, and that is your classic comment is counter argument is free will. I mean, when you look at it, sorry, I used to study this in philosophy, but I personally am not Christian, so I can care either way. Call it whatever the fuck you want. You're both just insane. So, he keeps going on like he has a scene with the hawk, and he's like, you train the hawks by sewing their eyes shut, which I don't really think that's true, because that would seem really hard to do. I'm pretty sure they just put a fucking hood over them.
Actually, I think they may have. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've researched it.
Certainly now that would never
But no,
happen.
now they don't.
I do know for a fact they hooded them.
Yes.
Did they actually go and sew a hawk's eyes shut? My brain seems to think that would be really difficult to do.
Yeah.
Like extremely. I would think just putting a hood over his face would be the easier solution. So, but whatever. I'm not a hawker. I think they're awesome birds and love the sport. But yeah.
Well, I mean, the hoods are just so that they don't take off immediately. You train them by hand feeding them so that they'll bring you prey back.
Mhm.
So blinding them would literally defeat the purpose. They are sight hunters. So if you blinded them, they wouldn't be able to see.
Well,
it would be to get them used to human handling.
Yeah, Prospero's story was it so that the hawk was dependent on its trainer. Not so, but it still seems a bit weird.
I don't think that's.
I feel like I need to Google that now. Did they actually sew hawk's eyes shut?
Yeah.
But yeah, so, but I mean, it'd just be a thing, just one thing after another. He keeps showing how cruel he is, and and she's not like buying it. Like the whole time, you don't really see Francesca going,
fantastic. You're kind of a dick, but that has nothing to do with the rest of
oh, apparently they are stitched shut.
Ugh.
So I'm wrong. They do.
Yeah.
My bad. Roger Corman did his research. Not on tarot cards, but he did on hawks. But at any rate, sorry. Excuse my ignorance on the subject. I have to research further now. But yeah, sorry. So yeah, she just act after act. The Scarlattis pull up and they went through the village, and of course, Prospero was like, yeah, you can't come in here, Red Death and all. And Scarlatti's like, spare me. So he shoots him, and Francesca's like, why? He's like, it's kinder. He's like, but it's your friend. Well, it's kinder. It's that or he dies of the Red Death. And he throws a knife down at Scarlatti's wife after he makes a point.
But that,
go ahead, Rebecca.
That scene, great. Yeah, him when his friend was like, look, you can have my wife.
Yep.
And the Prospero saying, I've already had that doubtful pleasure. And I'm like, the look on the wife's face. I'm like, that actress at that moment, I'm like,
she threw him so much shade with her eyes.
It was like a light had just gone out over the film. There was so much shade.
I feel like if they'd given her a line, she was like, "That ain't what you said when you got it."
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, she was just like, and he throws a knife down her, and they never show if she kills herself or not. But my ass would have gotten back in my carriage and driven, because it's a good chance, The whole funny thing about it, like they're in here, Prospero's claim was that he made a deal with Satan to protect them all from the Red Death. They never show him making this deal, but he just feels he's powerful enough in the, favor of Satan that he can protect them all. But I mean, he literally was in the hut with the dead woman, with the Red Death, hanging over her.
Yes.
All these people were in the village together. And he's just like, did you touch him? Like, I mean, I know it's supposed to be medieval times, so plague spread is not. Yeah, they were all there. He brought them into the castle. So, chances are of them actually avoiding the Red Death are pretty much, null. But then, you get the same thing today where people just don't get it. So,
yep.
Whatever, or God will save them and Satan will save Prospero. I mean,
yeah, I would like to point out that even Prospero was like, oh, I see the value in quarantine.
Yeah, he did then isolate himself.
Yeah.
I mean, well, not himself, but he did put all of them behind the wall after the exposure, though.
Mm-hmm.
Not because he thought
it existed. He didn't know until that point. So as soon as he found out, he
shut the doors.
Yep.
Yeah. So you just see example after example, and here's like one of the dumbest scenes to me. Oh well, first of all, I have to mention one thing that Corman did that I liked that he did take from the story was the rooms. Yeah, and that was from the story. It wasn't a perfect representation, but at least he had that element in there, and I thought that was a nice touch. It was just these monochrome rooms. There's one after another. There was like one that was nothing but yellow with all yellow in it, one that was all purple, one that was all white, and then of course the final most sinister room, the all black room, which in the book was supposed to have a red window basically that had.
This one did.
Yeah, but it wasn't set up the same way. It was supposed to have a fire behind it that shined the light in so that everything had this red hue over it. And they didn't quite pull that off.
Yeah,
in the
they only
story.
showed
Just,
like the red window.
Yeah, but it was there. You're right. And there's this scene where he, you know, takes Francesca through each of the rooms and tells a story about his dad locking his friend in the yellow one for 3 years just as an experiment. And when the guy came out, he couldn't even bear the sight of the sun because it was a yellow color. I mean, it's a psych experiment. People do crazy shit like that, but it was like, okay, so your dad was a dick too. We got it. And of course, they get to the black doors, and he's like, "No, you can't go.
You are not ready yet." Yeah,
that is not for you.
Adding to the mystery.
But then comes the dumb scene. She's sleeping. She wakes up from a dream. She hears a sound. She follows it down. She goes through the rooms. She opens the black doors, and there's Juliana sitting on a throne. And then, like in a coffin-like rest area, there's Prospero, who basically does a jump scare on her, right? It just pops up like boo. And she's like, runs screaming through the castle.
That part of it seemed a little odd to me.
I mean, like, I can see where you'd be like, well, but I don't see why you'd like, I never understood why she ran through this castle from that point. I would have been like, really? We're going to play this juvenile joke?
Dramatic effect. Dramatic effect.
Yeah, but then, of course, as she's running through the castle, she runs into Alfredo, who has a terrifying mask on and screams at her again. But once he takes the mask off, she's like, okay.
It's pedo stare guy again.
Oh,
yeah, like, that didn't cause her to run screaming through the castle. But Prospero popping up at her. So yeah, like that was one of the scenes where I was like, I don't even understand. Did Corman just thought it would be funny to throw a random satanic practical joke in there? Like, what was that supposed to be?
Like, don't you think that Juliana would have been reacting more if he had been like, I don't know, dead? So,
oh, not necessarily. She was in the whole thing for her own.
Right, she was all about
power grab.
She wanted, but
so if he was out of the way, she was closer to the source of power in a way. She didn't seem to have to funnel it through Vincent Price's character, through Prospero.
I mean, it's just really like, where are we going with this? Nowhere. Okay, let's move on.
Cool. So,
and of course, meanwhile, sorry, Betsy, did you want to say something?
No.
Because meanwhile, through this whole thing, you still have Gino and the father, who Prospero keeps trying to come up with plans so that one has to injure the other because that's what's fun for him.
Yeah, that I thought was one of the weakest aspects of the film. That little subplot of him tormenting the father and the son. I mean, yes, it is used as a mechanism to break Francesca down and again, you know, expose her to more of the cruelty and theoretically have her question her beliefs, what have you. But it's
just like a side plot for no reason.
Yes, that actually is in my notes. I was like, this is the most boring part of it. I don't care about these two characters at all.
No. And you know nothing about him. You get a little play with Gino, but the father, like Francesca's father, is just, you know that he's apparently somewhat devout in his own way, you know, but it's just, he doesn't speak, I think, at all.
I think he has like maybe 2 or 3 lines at best.
Yeah, it's not memorable. And you know, you have one scene where he's trying to get them to fight each other. Well, he's trying to get them trained to fight each other, and of course Gino won't fight. Then one of the guards slashes him several times, so he's fighting the guards. And Francesca's viewing it, so she could see that Gino has a lethal streak as well. Which, you know, I don't know, that wouldn't shake my faith to be like, okay, so you're gonna defend yourself against someone trying to kill you. The humanity.
He probably.
I mean, I guess a true Christian would just turn the other cheek, but I mean, still.
Now, if speaking as a Lutheran, I'm like, yeah, go ahead, defend yourself. Don't be an idiot. Don't be stupid.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if that's what it was trying to go with, where he should have turned the other cheek, but I don't know. But you do find in that scene that Gino has a bit of a brain, because he does call out Prospero and saying that he knows that Prospero is not just going to kill him, because that would mean that Prospero loses.
Yeah.
Because, you know, Prospero's whole goal is to make them somehow be in competition with each other. And he sort of does it at the end, but doesn't, you know, it's.
Yeah, the game of who has the poison knife, etc.,
Yeah.
etc.
And just
And
by
they
the
each
luck
have to
of
take
the
turns picking.
whatever, they
Yeah.
played the game wrong.
Which we do have Hop Frog briefly, or Hop Toad, sorry, briefly in that scene. So you have them, they're all sitting at the lovely dining table. And for the entertainment, there's Gino and Francesco's father. And as you guys noted, there's like 5 daggers and one of them is poisoned. And each one of them has to slice themselves, wait 5 seconds. And if they don't die, then the game goes on. So of course it goes, and there's but 1 dagger left and they haven't died from the poison. So Francesco's father at that point grabs the last dagger and then kind of makes a lunge, which I'd have done that even earlier, but
Yeah. Why wait?
makes a lunge at Prospero. Prospero, of course, stabs him and kills him. So in the end, like, Prospero still didn't get his way. It was just, and Francesca's dad is dead. And I'll get to why this whole buildup is like, what happens with Francesca and that makes no fucking sense. But at any rate, so, and as punishment, they're both supposed to die. Well, I'm sorry. So there's Hot Frog who's holding Francesca in the chair at this point. Now, I'm not sure, because she wants to go to her father's aid or Gino's aid or both, why Hot Frog is holding her in the chair, if it's to save her or because he's acting out as a role to help Prospero.
I think it's more he's trying to save her.
I think so too, because he kind of
get
looks
involved.
sympathetic.
Yeah, don't get involved. You'll only end up, possibly dead. Because,
but it's a little hard to tell. But yeah, so I mean, there's the reemerge of a Hop Frog for 5 seconds there, I guess. And I think it's supposed to just establish that he's not a bad person as opposed to the rest of them. But it depends on how you look at things, really. But and of course, so Prospero's punishment to Gino is to throw him out, because then he'd have to face the Red Death. And of course, there's Francesca begging Prospero again, please don't throw him out. I will give myself to you. Anything you want, just don't throw him out. Prospero throws him the fuck out anyway. And he tells everybody to get ready for the ball.
She does ask to go with him, like, can you throw me out too? And he said, no.
Yes. Her original thing is, then send me out too. And he's like, no. And then she goes to, well, then you can have me if you let him stay. But meanwhile, like, of course, Prospero is like, really? But he still throws him out. So he could have started corruption 1, but doesn't. But we've skipped a big part, because in between all this happening, we have Juliana going the next steps in her relationship with Satan.
Now, I say that her scenes with those, she was owning those scenes.
She was in it. She was Vincent Price level in it. I totally agree.
Yes. Yeah.
Man,
she was doing the best with her satanic mask.
Yes. Yeah, she was chewing up the scenery on that one.
Yeah, she was epic. And she looked gorgeous. That dress.
Oh, yes.
Man.
Yeah. They did it. I have to say, as a little bit cheesy as the costumes were, there was still, some of them were still really good.
Oh no. Some of them I was like, I kind of want that.
Yeah. Same.
Like, am I aware that it's completely historically inaccurate? Yes.
Do I care?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do I care? Absolutely not.
So, in this, she takes a brand right on the titty, the upside down cross.
My boobs were cringing during that part. I'm not gonna lie.
Shoulder baby girl, why? That's gonna rub against everything, even with your low cut stuff. It just no. And she cites some random Latin words that are non sequiturs and don't actually have a phrase that happens there at all, in a sing-songy, churchy voice.
Insert random. You know that the script was just like, insert random Latin chanting here, and somebody was like, just find something that sounds like it.
They're singing the song from the Grinch, the fa hoo ra mustahu.
So she's taken like another step towards initiation, but it's not quite and correct me, we don't have the nice little hallucination scene yet. That's later.
No, the hallucination scene is later.
So she's going to secure her place, and she's branded her titty towards that end.
Yep.
And then, of course, she decides that really to secure her place, she really does need Francesca out of there. So,
or so we think.
So she thinks, yeah. So, and of course, this is what I kind of think is sweet, though. She doesn't go to kill Francesca. She's just like, I'll help you escape. And Francesca's like, okay.
Yeah.
Go fight for me.
And she just believes this, which blows my mind.
Which, it's interesting to me. Like, I wonder if she had not agreed with Juliana about leaving, if Juliana then would have taken it to a different level and tried to attack her. But
Entirely
instead,
possible.
she just is like, no, I want to go. I have no problem leaving here if you could tell me how the fuck to do it.
Yeah.
And Juliana does. She's like, well, do this, do this, do this. And Francesca's like, got the key, I'm going.
Yeah. Francesca is clearly ready to bounce.
Yeah. But of course doesn't quite manage to do it. And that's when it leads to the scene where like she gets them out, guards end up getting them anyway. They've killed a couple guards. And so Prospero's like, well, see, they even killed some of my guards. So now they really have to die.
And then we end up.
And that's when we get to the scene with the poison knives and all that shit. But yeah, so as Francesca's offering herself to Prospero, Juliana cuts in and takes a rose out from her very low décolletage dress to reveal her branded boobie and is like, look, I have gone to the next level. And like Prospero's like, not quite yet, you haven't. You still need to do more.
Yeah.
And she's like,
he's not terribly impressed with her.
Satanism
her,
is a multi-level marketing scheme.
Yeah. You think you're at the highest level of the marketing scheme, but you got to recruit 10 more people before you get the nice home prize.
Satanism is Amway.
And that leads to one of the what the fuck scenes really of this movie. Another one that makes no sense, where I takes a draft of something and goes into like basically a trance, and then has a hallucination where basically she's terrified by African looking people who are dancing around.
Well, they have multiple cultures there. There was one at first that looked Aztec in costume.
Ish or Egyptian?
Yeah, ish on all of these, frankly. Oh, hi, puppy dog.
Yeah, Elvira, just like you just say hi to her. Sorry.
Hi, Ellie.
Say hi. There you go. Okay.
She's like, I don't want to be on a podcast.
Let me be on it.
Yeah, because in that scene you had her hallucinating with all these random dancers.
But most of them are not. They're meant to look
foreign. Let's say
foreign. We'll go with foreign.
Yeah, they're meant to look.
And there's one white dude who looks like a weird like shepherd with a Sith that he's
I got nothing.
And they mimic cutting at her, and then she comes out of it and she feels imbued with all the power of Satan, and she knows she's now Satan's bride because she has survived her own virtual sacrifice.
Yeah. she's
because I had a really bad clip.
Yeah, she's gone through the demons in her own mind and has come out. So she's like, I'm ready. I've gone to the next
Satan's
level.
Queen.
Yeah.
But first, I will be the earthly queen of Prospero, who is apparently the earthly king of Satan. I don't know, but at any rate, and she comes through, and Prospero apparently is well and truly done with her. Like,
yes.
Lost complete. Like, as soon as laid eyes on Francesca, no interest in Juliana, basically. So she could have done pretty much anything, and he wasn't going to give a fuck. So
no, she was displaced. Yes,
I know.
Yeah, that she was great. She was displaced from the moment the new toy came on the scene.
Yep. Yeah. And so she walks out feeling her power and is like, I am even more favored than you by Satan. And he's like, okay, you think so? And then out of nowhere, well, one, there's a little homage to the actual story of the Red Death. You see like a clock with like a double-edged axe pendulum, which I would assume was supposed to be referring back to the creepy clock that was supposed to be in the book.
Yes,
but
which I also felt like that could have been an homage to Corman's earlier films, with Pit and the Pendulum, which was I think one of the first ones that he did. Because this one,
I love the dress she's wearing though. I totally
know. I want that entire
jewelry too. Yeah.
Oh.
But she gets massacred by a crow or a raven. Probably a raven would make more sense. This is Poe. And I don't even know how it really massacres. It just basically claws up her face. Doesn't even get her eyes. And she just dies from cheek wounds.
Yeah.
She dies from embarrassment because she died being attacked by a bird.
I'm gonna go for that. That's what I think it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll go with that.
She's like, I can't handle this. This is ridiculous. I'm done. Forget this. I'm
Which is
going to
interesting
die.
because she was wearing red, and Prospero said out loud, for the mask, no one was to wear red.
No one was to wear red.
Which, though, you do see random other people have red accents in their costumes.
Yeah.
That one guy is wearing almost entirely red.
Yeah.
He's got like a red jerkin and a red piece, and I was like, dude, you're not supposed to be wearing that.
I can tell you that's the people responsible for costuming going, look, this is what we have. Deal with it. I'm not making.
You didn't give us a costume budget.
Yeah.
I
didn't get enough
from
for
Romeo and
this.
Juliet. Just suck it up.
Yeah, I'm fairly sure a lot of these came from the generic movie vaults.
I'm sure they did. I'm sure.
Of this was American International Pictures, I think.
I think so.
I think so. Yeah. Which, interestingly enough, it was shot in England. Yeah, he got a lot more subsidies in Britain, and he also had, I think, an additional 1 or 2 weeks worth of film time, which for those kind of low-level horror films that are usually shot very quickly on cheap-ass budgets was a heck of a draw.
Yeah. Good notes. I had no idea, but yeah.
Yeah.
So Juliana's now dead. Meanwhile, we have a scene where the villagers decide that there's like 6 of them left. So they're going to take all the infected dead bodies, load them up in a trailer or in a cart, cart them along with them to the castle, and then beg entry. Beg forgiveness to get entry.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, why are you killing the bodies with you?
Also,
even
Prospero makes you think that he would
let you in.
There's no
he's a narcissist. He's not going to let you in.
He doesn't care about you.
So much stupid in this plan. And of course, they run into Gino, and Gino's like, no, he has no mercy. You're wasting your time. And you don't want to go in there anyway.
He's like, look, I have the experience. Trust me, this plan will not work. And they're like, no, we're going to do it anyway.
And then here's another weird scene. So they refuse to not try. And Gino's like, no, okay, I'm going to go. He grabs the one child and is like, just come with me. I mean, I get he's trying to save her, but it was like kind of fucking weird. Like, hey, kid, you remember me? Let me just pick you up and walk off with you. And the kid's dad's like, that's my kid.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to go for this best chance here, which it was not a best chance, but whatever, But it's just like, just pick up the kid and walk off.
It was murder.
And of course, Prospero's like, yeah, just kill them all, except for the kid. Don't kill the kid. And the guard was like, but she's just going to die out there anyway, slowly. He's like, I don't care. Don't shoot the kid.
I draw the line at murdering children outright.
Well,
I mean, unless I'm running them over with my carriage, but that's just
what that reminded me of is back from when I was still playing Vampire, and one of the characters that I had, yes, she wanted to corrupt anyone, but for her targets were X number of years and up, because underneath that she was like, well, they don't have the mental wherewithal to choose good or evil, so they're not valid targets. They can't legitimately make that choice. So I think that's what is with Prospero there. He's like, the child at the moment is, for lack of a better word, pure and cannot sort of actively really choose or understand evil. So therefore it's not in the game.
I guess. I mean,
that at least is my thought. Yeah, that's true. With this, it does, a lot of this sometimes you look at and you're like, why are they doing this? Like the whole Gino against the father subplot.
Right.
So Gino runs off on his own and of course runs into the Red Death personified. But somehow nobody puts that together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, here's a creepy character all in red wandering through the countryside where there's this disease called the Red Death going around. I don't know. Could there be a connection? Nah. No connection.
Not. Red men come to me all the time. It's the Middle Ages.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, he does view it as somebody to be revered. So I don't know what he thought the guy was, but maybe he thought he was Christ
some
on
kind of
earth.
odd monk or friar or
No,
traveling priest, for
at
lack of a
all.
better term. Yeah.
And the Red Death gives him the Sun card and says it stands for mankind. And here's a sign for you, basically, he says. And Gino, I guess, gets his second win from that moment. It goes to try to storm the castle again. And
Which
gets
does
to the
not
top
seem
of the
like a very
battlements.
good plan.
And there's the Red Death again. He says, like, just wait here. I'll bring Francesca to you. And he's like, the guards will see me. He's like, no, check out the guards. Guards are dead of Red Death. Gino still doesn't seem like he strings it together, though.
He's not the brightest guy. Gonna say that.
Meanwhile, in the castle, you do have your second scene with Esmeralda and Hopped Toad, where it's basically really, really obvious that they're dubbing a woman's voice over this child.
Yeah.
And it's creepy as hell. And I'm like, the whole scene is like maybe a minute and a half, but it's very just disturbing and icky just because that. There's nothing overt or wrong about the scene. It's basically Hop Toad says, be ready. We're going to run away. Don't even go down to the masquerade. And she's like, are you sure? He's like, do you trust me? She's like, I trust you. All right, then we got this. Because Hop Toad has already set in play his revenge against Alfredo. Yeah. He basically lured Alfredo in with the, Prospero's a good master, but there might be better ones out there.
Yeah, he did a really good job of playing Alfredo on that one. However, I'm going to say that the bar is set a little low on that because let's face it, Alfredo is not exactly that bright.
No, they don't make him appear to be a witty character at all.
No.
He basically just says, yeah, I mean, I can get you the best costume for this masquerade.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very witty, I'm very cunning, and if I do this for you, you should be my master and treat me well. And Alfredo's all for it, and therefore you get the Hop Frog plot of dresses him up as a gorilla, really, in this one, not an orangutan.
Definitely a gorilla.
And
which I want to ask, what the hell sort of Renaissance prince, I guess, for lack of a better term, just has a random gorilla suit hanging around? I'm just gonna ask that question.
I think it was supposed to be like a skinned beast or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's that like implication that he has like a game room filled with dead animals, and I guess that's what it was supposed to be. But
implication was kind of that he actually just had the skin of a great ape lying around that you could wear as a costume, which is gross.
It's gross and clearly not what that was. I mean, it's like one of the worst gorilla costumes you've ever seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But whatever, Hop Toad cons Alfredo into wearing it. Alfredo's all down for it. They go down to the mask is already happening despite Juliana's dead body. I guess they just kicked that over to the side, and they
just put it under the table, get it out of the way,
brush that away, and
rug over it, or just dancing on top of her.
It could be that too. I mean, really, let's be honest. These are not really people who give a shit.
No.
And the party is already in full force at this point in time, and he's leading Francesca around, and out comes Alfredo and Hop Toad. Sorry, Alfredo is as the gorilla, and Hop Toad is his trainer, and Alfredo's having a blast attacking the women and stuff like that, and Hop Toad. It's like, oh, we got to tame him. Ties him up, ties him to the chandelier, similar to the actual story of Hop Frog. Hoists him up, and then basically throws brandy on him, which is very different from the Hop Frog story, as if anybody listened, and then sets him on fire, and then just kind of stands there for a minute saying, well, he explains exactly why he's going to do it, and then sets him on fire, and then it's like talks for a minute, and then pieces out from the party, and meanwhile, Francesca and Prospero just watch it. Prospero thinks it's awesome. Prospero looks over at Francesca and says, I see you don't even flinch anymore. Who gives a shit if Alfredo's hurt, really?
Yeah. I don't think anybody sheds tears at the loss of Pedo Man.
No.
She's like, no, he was kind of a perv and he skeezed me out. So
yeah.
Oh well.
Yep.
He hit a little girl. I don't really care if you burn the fucking guy.
Please burn him.
Y'all seem like pieces of shit to me. Y'all could burn. Not some shit you could have. My dad's dead and my fiance or what have you is probably dying of the Red Death right now. I really don't give a shit about an overprivileged pedophile being set on fire by
Mhm.
a little person. I just don't.
Yep. Nope. I don't think anybody cares. He is not mourned.
But Prospero is all for it. In fact, he's very much a fan of this jest. And he even says, when you find Hop Toad, give him like 5 gold pieces.
Yeah.
But of course,
Yeah,
Hop
he was
Toad and
happy.
Esmeralda are like, peace out and gone.
Yeah, they choose the wise opportunity to GTFO.
Yep. Meanwhile, all of a sudden, emerges in the party the Red Death. Of course, though, this is not put together. Instead, you just see Prospero get pissed, which is much like the story that if there's this person defying his order and wearing red.
And then he thinks, oh, this must be the master. Oh.
This must be Lord Satan himself coming to bless my party.
Satan is blessing my party.
And he's going on and on about what a good servant he is to him and what he's done.
Oh, but I missed the part. So, the scene after where Prospero is basically noticing that Francesca's lack of response to the burning ape man, he basically is like asking her as they're following the Red Death too, like if she's like ready to convert kind of thing. Like, so she's like, I'm not sure. I'm like, what in the whole thing even led her to the point of being, I'm not sure. Like this whole time she's like, I'm really not into this. And she just watched him kill her father not too long ago and kick Gino out into the, basically his death. And now she said, like, I don't know, maybe I'll be your new follower into Satanism. Maybe you're right.
It literally is a just say maybe to Satan moment.
There was just
what it is we've all been in the bar getting pestered by somebody, and we're like, yeah, well, maybe that's what it is. She's been pestered by him constantly through the whole thing, and she's doing that maybe to shut him the hell up.
Yeah.
Okay. I never hit that point. I get more and more rude and obnoxious to like somebody's going to take a swing kind of situation. Either they swing and then I knock them into the bar, or I just knock them into the bar.
This is a 1960s girl. She's going to be.
But that's the height of feminism. Well, not the height. It's like, kind of the upswing of feminism. So
maybe Satan, but I'm keeping my options open.
Yeah, she's not going to do anything until she sees all the cards.
Really. Yeah, but I'm not going to give a hard no. Maybe
maybe I'll go steady with Satan for a while and see how it goes.
We'll do a little over the shirt kind of work, see what he's got.
I'm not just going to go whole hog boob stamping.
Because that looks painful and that leaves a mark.
Yep.
So Prospero is following and dragging Francesca along with him, behind the guy who's dressed, all in red. And as noted, he starts throwing out random friends' names and then decides that the Red Death is actually Satan because he can't figure out that he's the fucking Red Death for some strange reason, or an emissary of Satan, because like it changes as they're walking. And you have this kind of neat scene, honestly. It's a very lovely, picturesque
as he's
scene.
going through the rooms. Yeah.
And then when the dance happens and they all start turning red and freezing and then dancing and freezing and dancing, like this lovely waltz of death ensues. And you have a touching moment where Prospero's like, this is wonderful. What a great jest. I promised them all that you would keep them safe, And like, Death's like, wow, that was kind of overreaching of you.
I think it's the line, death has no master.
Yep. That comes shortly after that.
Yeah. And that's a common thread you see in a lot of stuff, in depictions of death across like different shows, books, and media, is that indeed death has no master because nobody escapes it.
Yep. Oh. And meanwhile everybody's dying and Prosper's like, well, I promise them they'll be okay, but this is kind of even funnier, really.
Yeah.
Oh well, sorry about your luck, they're all gonna die. And look at all these souls I brought over to Satan. Isn't the master pleased? And I think that's actually when you hit he's like, death has no master. I don't know why you think that.
Yeah.
And then of course, Well, actually, it was right before that when he's like sees all his friends dying that Prospero says, "Hey, but spare Francesca, would you please? Me and Francesca." And like Death is like, "That's kind of generous of you. Not quite in keeping with your character, but." Which, of course, Death the whole time planned on sparing her, so it was no big skin off his nose to go ahead with that. And sends her out to the battlements to Gino, as he said that he would. And Prospero finally figures out that he's gonna die and panics because he didn't think he would, I guess. And
He didn't expect to pay the consequences of his actions.
At all.
No.
So the whole castle dies, basically. And then you have this touching scene where you have the Red Death with the little girl who was with the villagers playing cards with tarot cards, which you can do.
Yes. That was the original use of them. The game.
Well, it was a game, but it was
and
yeah.
Everybody, it was a trump taking game.
Yeah,
I played it.
It's fun. Then the playing cards did come out of them. So I thought they were maybe playing war.
Yeah, really. Go fish.
Anyway,
it's cheating. There's no duplicate for the major arcana.
No fair. But and then the rest of the deaths start gathering at this tree
and discussing.
And they have a lovely conversation about how very few they spared as they walk through, or how many they killed as they walk through the lands. And they asked the Red Death, how many for you? And he was like, well, 6 lived. There's, 2 little people, a couple, this kid, and some old dude who never left the village. That's it. And then they say actual Latin, which is sic transit gloria mundi, which is this is where thus passes worldly glory. Sorry, I'm like, my Latin's tricky. I'm like, what is it? Thus passes worldly glory, which was kind of the whole point, where rich, poor, whatever, you can all die.
Yeah. That's
death spares none.
That was the whole point of the Poe story and the film.
Yep.
You are all subject to that.
Which is true. But the one thing that all these things do kind of overlook is how much easier it's to die when you're not wealthy and privileged.
Yes, how much more vulnerable you are when you are at the bottom rung of society.
Yeah. I mean, the entirety of the village gets burned. They have no place to go. It's going to spread. There's no doctors. There's no health care that they can afford. There's nothing. So even if the Red Death didn't get them the elements, sure as fuck would have. So, but yeah. So it was timely to watch it now. I have more appreciation for what Corman did after reading the actual story, because there's not much to work with. There's just the rooms, the Red Death, and
the clock.
Actually, it wasn't even somebody dressed in red in the story. It was somebody who was dressed as a victim of the Red Death.
There was the clock as well.
Yeah, but Corman didn't really play on that clock though much.
No, I think that was a bit of a loss on his part.
I agree, because it was very haunting, the imagery in the actual story of the clock, where everything stops.
Yes, just everything. The party stops, no conversation. People are looking around awkwardly. I think if they had, I don't know, it might have been interesting to see if they had tried to put it in.
It would have been a good addition in either of his versions, because in the 89 one, he pretty much took out all the Poe elements, really. Well, except for he actually did make the Red Death in that one look like the red. He did look ghouly and as if he died and had chunks. Looked more like a leper death, but that's just not the point. But I mean, he took out the rooms in that one. There was no clock in that one.
There was a very expansive torture chamber in that one.
There was, where they boned under the tortured dude too. There was that. Well, there was a couple expansive torture scenes, I should say.
Yeah, because there was the one with the trepanning.
Yeah, screw in the head, and the guy suspended from the ceiling, and that's what you do for fun.
Probably added in for random evil elements.
Yeah. No hot frog in that one though.
No hot frog in that one. Honestly, I don't mind the addition of the Hop Toad story. I think that was one of the better elements. I'm like, if you're going to do that, yeah, mix up a little bit of the Poe.
I thought that was a good element as well
It
to
was,
add in.
and it was put in pretty seamlessly.
Yes.
You know, I think that he chose two stories that kind of integrated fairly well because you have a mask and a mask, and you were able, you know what I mean? So I agree that was a good choice. They didn't really establish Hop Toad as anything. Like, you assume he's probably a jester, but he's just.
Well, you don't
there.
really need, you don't have to give everybody, you don't have to explain.
No, but it's just he
Yeah,
wasn't
so-
really truly integrated into the story. You know what I mean? It was just like,
Well,
I didn't mind that he was in there, but I felt like they could have done better if they were going to do it. There was other shit they could have taken out and made this more of a.
I think it was clear enough though from context. I mean, everybody knows.
That's not what I'm saying.
Oh, okay, all right.
I'm not saying it wasn't clear what he was. I'm just
Okay,
saying that it
got
was
it.
just kind of thrown in there. Not that you couldn't
Yeah.
figure out that he was a
Mhm.
fool or anything like
They
that.
could have taken out the entire part with the whole I'm gonna make your dad and your boyfriend fight
Agree.
to the death.
Agreed.
And
And
That's-
expanded the hot frog story there.
Yeah,
more with
I
Hop Frog.
yeah, I think that
Taken out,
aspect of the story could have been.
yeah, or taking out
jettisoned.
pedo Alfredo, and
Although then who would he murder? 'Cause
Yeah, pedo
well, he
Alfredo
didn't have to be with the
existed.
murder. He could just been some random guy that hit the girl.
Yeah,
that's true.
I mean, he basically, I think Alfredo's whole purpose in the film was to be burned in a gorilla suit.
But they didn't really need to set him up as a pedophile to do it. They could have had anybody, you know.
I guess they were probably trying to make him somewhat worse
I guess.
than
Could be, who
the
knows?
because
They're just sort of
when it came down to it, I was much more happy to see him burned alive than I would have been to see Prospero.
True, but
Yeah.
I'm okay seeing Prospero burned alive. But really, would you have cared if any of those other guests got burned alive, though?
no.
They
See,
were
that's
non.
what I'm saying. Could have been any of them.
Yeah,
They were all kind of obnoxious. Just
it was interchangeable. Really, you could have chosen any of them to be,
Yeah.
and you would have had the same response. Good.
I mean, honestly, I
Move
spent
on.
the movie trying to figure out who the guy was that played Alfredo because he looked so familiar to me, and then I figured it out, and I was like, oh, he was in A Clockwork Orange. He was murdered. The one that got beat to death with his own big penis, if you remember that scene.
I have not seen that movie.
Okay, well, it's a
I
horrible.
watched parts of it. I did see that scene. I have a hard time watching the entirety of that movie because it's just like,
I watched it far too young, and it ruined my life.
I bet.
But I'm like, his face is so familiar to me. Why is his face so familiar to me? And then I realized it was because I've seen a huge white penis coming at it. You know,
Fix it.
seriously, they like beat him to death with it. I'm pretty sure.
Now I apparently.
kind of like the movie Range 15 where he gets beat with a
Oh
dildo.
God! Oh God! Yeah, yeah. I haven't seen that in a while. That one was so
his
funny.
Character in that was like a kind of a freewheeler, like him and his wife are kind of like swingery, like whatever. And then they attack them and they do horrible things to his wife and then they murder him.
Mm.
And that's how
That's why I'm not a huge fan of the
Yeah.
Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
It's not fun to watch.
No, it's not. at all.
I've seen like parts of it. I think I saw up to that point, and then I was like, "This is
Also,
click." No.
just don't even bother to try to read the book. It's nigh on impossible to read. It's written in a language that is not a language. So you literally have to be going back and forth from the glossary to the front the whole time, because I've done that too. And I'm like, this wasn't fun. I don't know why I torture myself with this book.
See, at least this movie was fun.
Yeah, it
This
was.
movie was super fun.
It's I'm not sure
And
if it's
visually
the-
very appealing.
yes, yeah. I'm not sure if it's the best of the Poe ones, but it's I thought it was well done.
Yeah. But I have to be honest, the 60s are not my favorite thing when it comes to, because I'm not against being artsy and creative. I'm really not, but sometimes it comes across as so horribly cheesy that it's difficult to watch.
I
Like
get that.
really difficult.
Some of them, yeah, some of them I do get that feeling.
And this is like on the border of that in some places.
I admit there were a couple times where I'm sitting there and I'm with my notes. I'm like, What are they doing? Why are they trying this?
And the hair, the 60s hair. I'm just not a fan
Yeah.
of the 60s.
The beehives everywhere.
I-
You still had them.
I'm like, all of these hair pieces. There are thousands of hair pieces on this set right now.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want every wig.
You can have them, honey. I won't fight them for it.
I'm like, those are all hair pieces. Especially
yeah.
like Francesca. Like the scene when she's in the bathtub is her hair. The rest of
Yes.
that is all bits because none of that was hers.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'd say watch it. You know, I
Mhm.
think it's free on the Roku app right now.
It is. That's how I was watching it last night.
And definitely classic. And pretty much anything with Vincent Price in it, you should watch just for his stylings, you know.
He's so
He
lovely.
just brings his whole unfettered self to every role. And it's
Yeah.
kind of a magic thing to watch.
Yeah, I do feel that he really threw himself into the performance, you know. And Corman, you know, even says, what was it? I have it written down here. Yeah, in regards that Corman said, you know, I never had anyone else in mind for Prospero. He was highly educated and cultured, and had been a leading man when he was younger, referring to Vincent Price. But he was also just a bit offbeat, making him ideal to play intelligent, cultured, but tormented men. So
True. Can't argue that.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think he had a hell of a sense of humor. So that kind of attitude.
Oh, definitely. And Jane Asher, who played Francesca, she was thrilled to be in the movie because she loved horror films. So I think, yeah, I think it was great to have somebody who was a fan of horror films. Yeah, indeed, one of us who was like, I'm gonna do this thing, you know, and did it very well. That's
Hazel Court, who was Juliana, was in another Corman. She was in The Raven.
Yes, she was in 3 of them actually.
Yeah.
The Premature Burial, The Raven.
I was like, can I look like her?
Right?
Yes.
Sorry.
And she was also very interesting outside of the movies because she was a painter and a sculptor and actually had studied sculpture in Italy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I'm like, that's really neat to see. You know, and Jane Asher, she's still active and is doing like mostly theater right now, has done some theater. And at one point, she had been dating Paul McCartney for about 5 years, and she essentially their relationship had been breaking down. One of the main things was he had wanted her to quit acting, and she's like, "Yeah, no, this is my thing. I'm gonna do my thing."
So quit if you want, but I'm not.
Yeah.
Well, he wasn't an actor, but you know what I mean.
Exactly. Yeah. And she's also been on several different philanthropic actions. I just unfortunately I didn't write it down in my notes what's what. But yeah, for being 17 at the time of the filming, I thought she did a really good job.
Yeah,
she was great.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, there's nothing I would argue about acting wise. Like, characters I didn't like, I still thought they did fine.
Yes.
I mean, there's several that were just not the, like, I mean, when you compare to some of what was going on, and then you had some side characters that was just kind of,
yeah.
But it wasn't like
there were roles that were better than others.
Yeah, but there was nothing that was like, oh my God, you suck. It was just more like,
I think all the actors did good with what they were working with.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I actually thought I was really impressed by the guy who played Hop Toad. I thought he did a great job.
Yeah.
He was wonderful. And I looked him up because I thought he should have been in more. Like, he was very good.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like he had a pretty hard time getting roles. He died fairly young. He was like in his 50s when he died. And he would get roles sporadically, and then in between he worked as a tobacconist in London. So, and that's, some people say that he's like a lost brilliance because he was also in several other horror movies where he played like carnival barkers and kind of interesting roles. And they were like, he was brilliant. He was brilliant and funny and really, really good and very scary and really carried the roles. And then unfortunately, he just couldn't get work. And that's really sad. But because I'm like, because I've always followed like fantasy and stuff, I'm like, why haven't I seen this guy anymore? Because
Yeah.
he's a really good actor. And a lot of diminutive actors, you know, get roles in these
Horror, fantasy, sci-fi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was kind of sad about it. And but yeah, that I was kind of sad. I was like, oh, I
That's
really
really
liked
sad.
him. He was very good in his little part.
I thought so too. I mean, that's really what I remembered most about the movie outside of Vincent Price prior to rewatching it 6 times for this. But you know, as you do when you're going to do a podcast about something, you just watch something so repeatedly that it's just now part of your life.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, well, I'll never forget that.
So, you know, now I'm the Red Death.
Dun, dun, dun.
Fear me.
I'm going to brand my boob.
Betsy, please don't.
Yeah, it's not required for the podcast.
It sounds painful, like for real. Ow.
I mean, if you want to brand your boob, honey. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your life, but I think that would hurt. And no.
Yep.
It's probably not going to be an upside down cross if I do. I'm just going to say that.
Well, and the worst part would be is, you know, wherever you got it on your boob, while it's healing, stuff would rub against it. Like you would just, your shirt, your bra, you bump into stuff. You know how that works. It's like if you get a tattoo anywhere in that area, it's just
not with the gowns Juliana was wearing.
It's true.
But when she put them on, I'm sure she bumped into things. They probably shifted and moved up and down right on the, because you know they do. Yes, Ellie.
Hi, Ellie. All of a sudden, dog nose on the screen.
Yep, just dog nose.
Yeah, I locked mine out of.
Well, she is named after Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, so she probably figures she should pop in as a host.
she's a mascot.
Makes sense.
So, final thoughts, Rebecca?
Final thoughts. Definitely a good movie when you're wanting something campy. If you're a fan of Edgar Allan Poe, I think you will enjoy it. If you're a fan of Vincent Price, you will definitely enjoy it. So, that's
Betsy?
my thoughts.
Thanks, Rebecca.
It's Vincent Price at his most. I think my first note was, oh, Vincent starts at an 11. Cool. Because it was just bam, out the gate. First scene, you're like, oh, I know exactly what I'm getting from Vincent Price in this, and I'm here for it. I just think it's a fun film. Not as scary as, you know, there are scarier horror movies, but, you know, there's one good jump scare that's real dumb, as discussed. And yet somehow I still jumped. So, you know, I think that says something.
You knew it was coming, but you still jumped.
Yeah,
anyway.
I'm like, oh no, okay.
Yep.
I think it's great. I think it's super fun, campy fun, and now I want to make an outfit for it and dress up.
Let's talk about that offline.
Yeah. Yeah. So very similar. I mean, pretty much I'm going to watch anything with Vincent Price in it. And I feel like, with maybe very few exceptions, and that's basically when he's not doing these types of roles, like Laura, I would say he was not an 11 in Laura. But almost anything else where he's like the starring main character, he is 11 the whole time. You know, like he starts and it stays up there. There's no dropping off for him. I'm surprised he lived as long as he did, because that just seems like it had to have taken a lot of energy to be at that level, sustained through an entire filming, you know?
Agree.
But yeah, so the Corman films are not my favorites, honestly. I enjoy them though. The campiness, the Satanism, the weird elements that Corman just throws in. They're like, okay, they bug you, but you're like, well, at least you're creative.
Yeah,
you're trying real hard.
The imagery is always just gorgeous.
Mm-hmm. And if you look through Corman's resume of films, essentially you'll see it's a rather large number, and he made a thing out of just trying to get as many done as cheaply as possible.
Yeah, he's prolific as hell.
Yeah.
A lot of
So-
late night TV that I saw. So like I think I grew up on
Mhm.
Corman to a degree.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely grew up on Corman. That's all of the like Vincent Price, you know, that I watched when I was young was all like Corman. It was the
And
Raven.
I think he had like a sci-fi television series, not like the Sci-Fi Channel, but a sci-fi genre television series, like Roger Corman Presents or something like that.
I'm sure there was.
Maybe I would have to
Maybe I'm
double check.
misremembering that, but I kind of remember watching many of those. I might be out of my mind, which is possible. You all know me, but so that just I spent a lot of time watching weird shit, and any of you who know me from my other podcasts are well aware of that fact. And Rebecca and Betsy who know me are aware of that fact. But so I would say have fun, watch it, and you know if you really want to open yourself up, think about how it plays in with our current pandemic, and which you can learn.
Definitely. The threads of narcissism running through those that are in power.
Yeah, and way it's easy to act like it's not much when you can hide safely. I mean, that's speaking from privilege myself. The whole time this has been going on, I've been working from home, you know, so there's a whole different sect of people that don't have that option. There's people who don't have homes. There's, you know, it's easy to think something like this pandemic is not much when you can barricade yourself from it. But when you can't, it's a hell of a lot. Well, even the flu, you know what I mean? Like disease, small things that wouldn't even make you think of anything if you have health insurance, you know, I mean, it's a whole different world, and we have a big divide in this world, and it's sad, but still death will come for us all. So,
Yes. Death comes to us all. To quote Vertigo's death, you get what everybody gets. You get a lifetime.
yeah. Well, I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and we'll do more. So
All right. If you have suggestions, things you want to hear, drop us a line on the Facebook, and
feedback
you
is
know,
welcome.
we always want to hear what you have to say.
Absolutely.